Common people usually consider that it was Champollion who deciphered the Egyptian hieroglyphs, and because of him, they can be translated nowadays. But if you delve even a little bit in history, you will easily find out that people were reading the hieroglyphs even before that. The problem with reading them the traditional way was that full passages with Bible content were shining from the walls of the Egyptian temples, and that was not allowed because those temples were artificially sent thousands of years back in history. There was a dictionary, so to say, guide how to read the hieroglyphs by Horapolum, and that was natural to exist because when in Egypt they shifted from hieroglyphs to other writings, there was the need of a dictionary, and Horapolum compiled it, and it worked fine. If it was mistaken, then the result would be some sort of unintelligible text. But the result, people and researchers were using his dictionary to read the inscriptions on the temples, and the result was okay, it was very sensible, but it was declared false because it did not fit the fabricated history of Scaliger and Petavius. The following cheap trick was employed. First, Horapolum was publicly declared to be wrong. After that, it was publicly and very loudly announced that Champollion, hurrah, hurrah, has finally deciphered the hieroglyphs. And after the society was informed about that and believed it, then, without much publicity within the scientific society only, it was confessed that, oh, but Harapolo was right after all about so many things. And what are these so many things? Well, everything except a few minor details that should be applied only to the latest, to the late part of using the Egyptian hieroglyphs. Why? Because only in later stages, when the last pharaohs accepted Christianity and started writing Bible texts on the temples, that was the uncomfortable part that could expose their shameless lies. The modern history textbooks, with great authority, assure us that Napoleon visited Egypt to give it a light. Napoleon gave light to Egypt. It freed it from oppression. Let's see what kind of light was that. Was it not the same light that was brought to the samurais by the so-called merchant ships? Contemporaries wrote about Napoleon's visit in this way. Napoleon did a lot in Egypt, really a lot. But a lot of what? And was it really about giving light, or things that should not have been done by real gentlemen? Even mainstream chronicles mention that he lined up his soldiers against the Sphinx and ordered them to shoot in its face. By the way, we see a funny cap on the top of the Sphinx. Is it metal or concrete? Do you notice the grey round thing right on the top? Maybe the Sphinx had some sort of a helmet or a hat that used to fit in this whatever is closed there, or maybe it's something else. Along with Napoleon, with his army, were traveling many scientists, writers, and painters. Let's see what were they exactly doing in Egypt. In the second half of 16th century, Pierre Bellon reports that the outer casing of the Great Pyramid is completely intact and looks newish. Jean Chenot is the secretary of the French embassy in Egypt, and in 1548 he records that most of the outer casing of the Great Pyramid is still intact. A very interesting medieval first-hand witness gives us valuable information. The physician from Baghdad, Abd al-Latif, writes, "The outer lining of the Great Pyramid is all covered with very ancient writing. nobody understands anymore this writing. The inscriptions are so abundant that if somebody wanted to copy them, that would be more than 10,000 pages. A Masudi traveler from the Masudi tribe also shares his account that the Great Pyramid is all covered with various inscriptions in alphabets belonging to various nations that have disappeared a long time ago. Three other medieval travelers confirm basically the same thing, and those are Ibn Hawqal, Abu Mas'had Jafar, and Wilhelm de Boldenzele. So the question arises, how come the locals in the area of Cairo started needing building material exactly when the West Europeans attacked Egypt? Were the locals not building houses before that? Were they building them out of water? No, they always needed building material. However, before Egypt was mercilessly attacked by the Western Europeans, the guardians of the pyramids and of the Egyptian culture were still living, still besides them, guarding them. Napoleon did not come to give light to Egypt. He came to destroy its culture. And that is why the lining of the magnificent Great Pyramid was turned into building material. Maybe the locals were even invited and encouraged to take it away because the inscriptions on it were uncomfortable for the Scaliger-Petavius timeline. Napoleon also took priceless pieces of art to Europe, where they lay till nowadays, most of them in the vaults, because they are not suitable for public display. These are modern video games for kids. Since small, the children of the human race are brainwashed to become cruel parasites, destroying the culture that celebrates peace, beauty, and harmony. They are trained since childhood to accept the parasitic, ugly, violent, cruel existence as something natural. These particular video games replicate exactly this historic period of the time when Napoleon raped Egypt. So what about Champollion? In the archive of the Italian city Turin, in year 1824 was written down the following. Champollion was very careful, especially when it comes to rewriting the names and dates connected with the rulers of Egypt. Rewriting. This was recorded by the Italian Posiner. Now this is interesting. Peter Ellerbacht writes about the visit of the architect Fritz Max Hessemer in 1829 in Egypt. Here it goes. I was very unlucky that I ended up in Egypt right after Champollion. What did that guy do over there? The tomb of Fever was one of the best. It was preserved in its pristine state. There were no damages. But after Champollion, the most beautiful items in it are simply broken down and they lay around into pieces. Those who have seen it before and after cannot recognize it. In the first half of the 19th century, a book was published under the name Wanderings of a Russian Sailor in Egypt, Syria, and Greece. He was a great admirer, and he was always crying at the thought that he will finally see the miracles that he has heard about. He had the descriptions of Champollion, but when he went on the actual spots, the things were not there, and he asked the locals what happened. He asked the local Arab where are the things that Champollion writes about, and much to his surprise, the Arab answered that it was Champollion himself who destroyed the inscriptions. The Arab at that time still himself remembers Champollion doing it. The seller was perplexed and asked why would he do that, and the Arab answered Champollion wanted to be the only one who knows what was actually written there. Those of you who have visited Egypt are well aware that, or even only from photos on the internet, one can easily see that many of the sites are in very poor condition, and they're really destroyed on purpose with hammers and chisels. With great authority, the modern historians assure us that it was the Egyptians themselves who did all that, to supposedly erase the memory of pharaohs who they stopped liking. Of course, that is fabricated only nowadays. There are no authentic records suggesting anything like this. And even if we just think with our own head a little bit, we'll find out that such scenario is quite fishy. Why? The Egyptians obviously took great care of decorating the world around them. They liked beautiful things, it's obvious from the items and buildings that they left behind. Obviously, they were not people that were devoid of artistic taste. And now, in case such people really wanted to get rid of the memories of a particular pharaoh, do you really believe that they will break down their beautiful buildings in the middle of their main squares with in a most barbarian way with hammers? Wouldn't they just chisel out the name of the pharaoh and substitute it with something else? Most likely, this savage destruction of the beautiful Egyptian buildings started when the Europeans came to bring light to Egypt. Mainstream scientists swear up and down that the pyramids were built as tombs of the pharaohs, but I find this highly unconvincing because all tombs are with paintings inside, full of inscriptions and of completely different shape. There is plenty much more reason to believe that they were built for harvesting some sort of energy, but since the authorities don't want our attention to be attracted to such ideas as free energy, they persistently try to distract us with the talks about tombs, funerals, and burials. They are not planning for us to have access to clean and beautiful building materials like the geopolymers that the ancients were using without poisoning Mother Earth, and that is why they pretend that they haven't yet heard about the scientific work of Joseph Davidovich and many others who are very convincing in showing that geopolymers were widely used in ancient Egypt. More details in my video. It's of 2 parts and it's called Ancient Advanced Building Materials. Also some interesting stuff on who might have built the Great Pyramids you can find in the description under link number 10. That's an external link to a remote viewing project. Very interesting. The story of the survivors that I'm telling you can remain for some only as a distant, beautiful fairy tale and not something useful and practical in daily life. I would like to recommend a book to you, a book that will help you in a very practical way how to start from today taking advantage of your royal heritage of your forefathers, the survivors. It is an international bestseller. It is written by an amazing shaman. Yes, that is the book of Barbara Marciniak, and it is available absolutely for free, read by her personally, under link number 11 in the description. And under link number 12, you can download another equally amazing book. There is a link saying download original or something like that, and it works. And that's a mind-blowing compilation of first-hand narrations of actual people like me and you under trance about the afterlife. I can't recommend especially the last one enough because I constantly mention that the survivors were putting their main stress on spirituality, and yet after that I say that nowadays we don't even have an idea what is spirituality even all about, what to speak of practicing. The percentage of people at least who understand it, it's very very small. Mostly even our very idea of spirituality is absolutely distorted by the religions, which barely have anything religious left in them. But instead of being always negative and reminding you that there is nothing religious left, I wish to tell you what is the true spirituality and tell you through the voices of many people who speak in trance and tell us the same thing. Okay, so that's all about the Michael Newton's book Journey of Souls. And after that, I would recommend you more selected quotations, again from people in trance, and that can be found in a playlist on my YouTube channel. The name of the playlist is Scientific Research into the Afterlife and Astral World. It is read by a computer because the material is just really a lot. None of that is composed by myself. It is all quotes from patients under trance, and it has been all recorded by trained psychiatrists.